So initiative is key in Battletech. If we're building this Tactica checklist, before we jump into the mechs, and this is what's challenging, literally the golden age of Battletech, because there are so many fantastic models, the Catalyst plastics, the classic Ironwind, you've got 3D printing, you've got hex maps from Catalyst, you've got custom hex maps. I mean, Battletech is just, it is overwhelming in an absolute amazing way. I mean, we've got clans. Jumping in with all that, it's easy just to jump into the mechs and start looking at the Tactica there. And that's important. But also in approaching Battletech for newly minted mech warriors, you want to understand the importance of the rules. And I've covered this, I've pushed up to my channel under the Wargaming Tactics playlist 5 or 6 intro wargaming videos. I looked at kind of the core tactics of cutting down your learning curve as a wargamer. And this applies to any system. You jump in to get a level of skill. I'm just throwing a number out there. Maybe you need 20 games to play, where now there's like a 50-50 chance win-lose. Can we cut that down to 10? Can we cut that down to 8? Can we cut that down to 5? And I looked at the various pieces in play, independent of system, these kind of markers to help you along the way to build that checklist and port it over your system. And the first is, now we're jumping back into Battletech, understanding the rules. And by understanding, I don't mean have them memorized. I mean, I still reference things all the time in Total Warfare. Like, I know I can do this in Battletech. I haven't done it in a while. Like, what were those additional modifiers? And kind of look it up and see what's going on. You don't have to memorize the rules, but you need to understand the significance of what the rules allow you to do, whether you take advantage of that or not. You need to understand every turn, the decisions you're going to make. Sometimes you make good decisions. Often I make bad decisions going for tabletop glory. I would make it an amazing Klingon, but I don't think I'd last very long because just absolute glory all the time. Like every day would be a good day to die. It would just be crazy. I guess you'd have to really clone me or accelerate my house and push it out that way. So I often make questionable Battletech decisions because the chance for tabletop glory is there, but I'm calculating in my mind. I know the risks. So looking through the rules and the different phases of the game and saying, well, what's going on in this moment? Like, what do I have to be aware of? What do I have to master? How can I use this to my advantage? And if you don't know in the moment because you can't see it or you're not there, that's okay. You're at least asking those questions. And second to that, what can I do to prevent my opponent? I prefer, well, actually, friend, gaming partner. What can I do to prevent them, the other side, the clans, whatever we're facing, whatever we're fighting, House Davian, to not be able to do that? So let's look at initiative, because Battletech is very, very curious where most games you win something, you go first. You win something in Battletech, you're like, wait, I don't go first. This idea of initiative, you moving a piece, I move a piece. And that is, Battletech initiative is so important. And what it represents in the narrative is the fact that the battlefield is constantly shifting every turn. I mean, there's things exploding, there's terrain, there's mechs moving around, there's communication, there's lack of communication, there's coordination between lances. I mean, there is a command and control structure, but once mechs start shooting, it is absolute chaos. And imagine being in this essentially metal machine, as sophisticated as it is. You're getting hit with high impact weapons, missiles, energy weapons. You're getting thrown about. The initiative represents your place in that battle. And I enjoy the Battletech initiative because it's not a you go, I go system. A lot of games from the 80s kind of follow that. I mean, Battletech's DNA is literally the 80s, where I set up my toys, you set up your toys. I mean, we see this with Warhammer 40,000 because it's built on the DNA of the 80s, Rogue Trader, 88. This idea of you move all your stuff, you do your stuff. Maybe now in the rules I have some limited interruptions, but then I go. Battletech, and once you win that initial initiative, a little bit of a tongue twister there, in these kind of you go, I go war games, you can kind of step back because, hey, now you're locked in for 6, 7, 8 turns, however the game lasts, and there's no way to break that. Battletech is somewhat in the middle where the initiative goes back and forth, win or lose, and that's going to determine the order that you move your pieces. And to finish it out, more modern type war games like Chain of Command, and I've pushed up to my playlist here on the channel, Chain of Command. Even if you don't have an interest in historicals, World War II, check out the rule set. Just check out a couple of those vlogs because the Chain of Command rule set is based on activation of individual units, a chance to seize initiatives, really a very, very dynamic interrupt type rule set, meaning it's your turn, you're doing stuff, but I can spend resources to interrupt you at any moment if I have them. I can do that, but it doesn't come at free. There's innovations with how things move, how things operate. The rule set is so fantastic. I'm about to commit heresy here for 40K enthusiasts. I have taken my Warhammer 40,000 models and played them using Chain of Command rule set. And when I've done that with my 40K friends, they're like, this is the 40K I've always wanted to play. Like, this is amazing because the rules are that good. They're that good. Okay, back to Battletech, though. So this is where initiative is important, and right away it's going to determine the number of units. Generally, it's 1-to-1, but you have to count up how many units you have, and we're going to talk in a moment what constitutes a unit, because there's a little bit of debate in house rules with that. You're going to move them individually or in groups. So it might be I'm going to move 2 or 3 pieces to your 1. I mean, if that's happening, you're in a lot of trouble because I've got you outnumbered. But the idea is the player who wins is going to get that last move. And that positioning is huge with how you activate. I mean, imagine, to simplify it, we're moving things around and you've got an assault mech, you've got your Warhammer. I have my Warhammer. I'm playing the Warhammer. I always play the Warhammer. I've got a Warhammer and you've got a Battlemaster, let's say. So you've got me outclassed. And we're, 2 hexes away from each other. We're just slamming into each other. If I win that initiative, you have to move that Battlemaster first. I get to react to where you're going. That's big. That's massive. Now, in that case, tactically, do you back yourself up against a building? If we're playing on a hex map, not that I would want a Battlemaster by the edges of the hex map because that means it's not earning its battle value pushing up to the kind of center where it can radiate out with this threat bubble idea. But from that perspective, if I'm in trouble, I could back up and put my little back against the hex map. But you move, you move, then I move, I'm going to get that Warhammer behind you. So you need to be aware of the initiative track and where you fall on it and literally the potential moves. Okay, what counts as initiative, though? Well, Battletech's interesting in that there are ways to modify and gain initiative. And this is where the total warfare concept comes in with Battletech. You have the core rules, and you can scale things up or pull things down based on just what you feel like playing or the time. If I'm just looking for a quick game, we just do Lance versus Lance. There's also Alpha Strike in that perspective. If I want to get things a little more complicated, maybe we add in combined arms, maybe artillery, maybe air support. You can add in specialized vehicles, coolant trucks, mobile HQ, spotters, the Swift Wind. There are ways to boost that initiative. So when you roll for initiative, you've got a +1. That's big. That is big. There are ways to bring initiative down. What counts for initiative? Well, every unit. So technically, RAW, rules as written, infantry count as an initiative. This is why bringing some infantry is important, because if I want to move a piece, but I'm forced to move it, or I don't want to move a piece, I'm forced to move it, I can burn that initiative piece over on the infantry. Now, some people look and say, well, that's a little bit beardy, because, you're paying, 60 battle value, or, 100 or 200 battle value, plus some APCs for some Tactica that you're just going to burn. It's command and control. So some players handle initiative with infantry separate, like a separate track, kind of like air support, or maybe they'll say you have to move all the infantry at once. I'm okay with house rules, one way or another. On a side note, and this is not only true for Battletech, this is true for all war games, I play raw, rules as written, because that is the DNA, that is the culture, that is the common language that when I travel all the time to play with clubs and groups and meet new friends, I know if I sit down and play Battletech or God Tier or 40K, whatever we're going to play, X-Wing miniatures, then I can play with that universal language. We can play together. And if you tell me, well, in this club, it's your group, it's your table, we do this differently, I can easily adapt. But if I play games where I've house ruled and homebrewed things so much, and again, I'm not against it, then that informs my tactica. Then when I'm not able to do that, or worse, it's expected to do that. So I always like to start as is. But I'm not against it. I'm not against any of that. I'm not against with tinkering with things for the experience. And I've done it. We've done it with my friends. And there are certain house rules we might play with. But I would say when you're looking at your tactica, go by the rules 100%. Because you can always adapt rather than train yourself and have to undo. So from that perspective, jumping into Battletech, understanding the importance of initiative and how to really understand it, just break out the game of Armored Combat, because there's probably a good chance you've got that set, or if you've got a bunch of mechs, just put out like 7 or, I was going to say 7 or 8, 4 or 5, an odd number of mechs on either side, and go through a few initiative turns and see what happens when there's an odd mech out. See what happens when the mechs are even. See what happens when you remove 2 mechs. This is why losing 1 or 2 mechs is massive in the game. This is because now the initiative starts to shift and works against you. And instead of moving 1 piece last, you're moving 2 pieces. 1 piece, you're moving 2 pieces from that perspective. You're down 2. I mean, it's a lot. This is why, tactically speaking, when a mech starts to get destroyed, if you're not playing with the force withdrawal rules, when a mech is arms blown off, weapons hurt, engine, I want to run away. I want to save that mech. It's better to save a mech and park it in the back because it is still an initiative point. Losing a mech is big, not only in the narrative and C-Bills and Tactica, but tabletop in that moment. Really, really big. So I want to encourage you, if you're new to the game, just set up that hex map, put a few mechs out, and just see, okay, it's initiative. What happens? Where do I move? Where do I go? Take away 1 mech on one side, do initiative. Take away 2 mechs on the same side, do initiative. Take away 3 mechs, and now you start to see how fast it crumbles, and the momentum begins to massively shift.